over the middle chapters on straight 5 and 6. Because I just did it.
Yeah. Yeah, those are the ones you can get out of the way pretty quick.
Yeah.
And come up with those. So that's true. All right. Oh. Okay. Continuing with our review, I will post both Monday's video and today's video in Canvas. If you want to go back and take a peek at those over the weekend, it's up to you whether you want to do that or not, but they'll be there so you can review. The other thing is I will probably be on my computer this weekend because I've got my online classes and so forth. So if you run across a problem in your packet, I can't really go back and do any unless you send to the instructor in Hawks. I can't do the ones that are in your practice final that's in Hawks. But let's say you're going through this and you can't get problem 5 to work out. Email me and say I'm having problems with problem 5 in my practice packet. Could you work it out for me? And I will. Okay, so you can do that too because your test or your exam is on Monday. So you want to be aware of that's when it is and that's when you're going to end up taking it. So so at least we get that piece underway. So first page, you guys were to go through this and take a look at that first page and see if there was anything else we still needed to do on there. Anything that was done in blue on this sheet was things that we had worked on Monday to work through. And again, I kind of highlighted stuff. I didn't really hit the problems real hard to go through them. And I know that probably these chapters 1 through 3, are probably the ones that aren't as fresh as chapters 5 and 6, definitely. 4 is probably another one that's not as fresh that you're working on. So anything on the first page that you still would like to go over or have me do up here with those? Hopefully you worked on this. If you didn't work on it, then just there isn't much I can do about it. But anything in the first page? Okay. So let's just kind of pick a couple out of here. So number 4, what would be my answer to number 4? Which was it? 61? Okay. And everybody okay in how they got that answer? Okay. So make sure that you're good at knowing what you got to do with those. Again, chapter 1, if we go back and look at our exam stuff, chapter 1 has 2 sections to it. It's got order of operations and it also has algebraic expressions in there. So you got 2 sets of 5 questions out of each of those. So problems 1 through 10 are going to be out of chapter 1 on your final exam. So know that that's the case there. Okay, anything else first page? No? Okay. Page 2? Any of them there that we need to work out? 15 and 16, can we go over them again? Sure. We went over them last time, but it's got consecutive integers. And last time, when we said about consecutive integers, we said just give an example of 3 numbers that are in order. So 1, 2, and 3 are in order. So if I didn't know the first one, it was x, how would I get to the second one? So you go back up here, how did I get from 1 to 2? I added 1 to it. So x plus 1 gives me my second number. How do I get to 3 from 1? I added 2 to 1 to get to 3. So in my algebraic piece, I add 2 to x to get to my third one. And so then it says the sum of 3 consecutive integers is a negative 87. Find the 3 integers. So x plus 1, so that's the second one. X plus 2 is my third one, is equal to 87. Okay? And then if you take it and you finish it by putting all your x's together. X plus x plus x is 3x. 1 plus 2 is 3. Subtract 3 and I find out that 3x is equal to a negative 90. Divide by 3, and I will find out x is equal to a negative 30, but that's only x, okay? Then I need to go back and find my other pieces. So if x is a negative 30, the next one is a negative 30 plus 1, or a negative 29. And the last one is a negative 30 plus 2, or a negative 28. Okay? Yep. Okay. Does that help? Okay. And then we did the second one, which was 3 consecutive even integers. So again, if you can't remember this stuff, give yourself 3 consecutive even integers and figure it out from there. Okay? Does that make sense? Okay, good. All right, anything else on that page that you think we need to do? So that was getting into chapter 2 stuff and coming up with what we need to do in there. So nothing there? Okay. And then page 3. Page 3, we did a lot of, I think we worked out almost everything on that page. At least we worked them out to what our equations would end up being. And I don't think we ended up solving in most cases. We didn't solve, we solved this one, or we didn't solve that one, we solved these two. But we didn't solve, or we solved this one, but we didn't solve the other ones. Do we need to solve those? Are you okay? Good with that one, you think? Okay. And then page 4. And page 4 got into percentages and solving for a letter at the tail end here. So do we need to do any of those? 21, 22, 24, 25 are still open to be solved. So we good there? Okay. Again, on Monday, you'll have a chance to ask questions too if you got anything left in this packet that we still need to take a look at. And then page 3 was looking at geometry and solving different pieces with your geometry parts in there. And then also we got into distance equals rate times time for those. Okay. Nothing there? I think we did all those anyway. And then we made it over to the next page, and we did some stuff with interval notation, and we did, we graphed stuff on a number line and came up with what those were to be. This is an arrow in here. So it's heading in that direction. Okay, so page 6, we good? What about page 7? Page 7 we kind of left open for you guys to do. Is there any there with inequalities that we still need to take a look at? No? Okay. All right. So we'll leave that page 7 then and leave it where it's at. And then finally, the last page, page 8. And page 8 is getting into chapter 4. So we hadn't made it to chapter 4. We stopped right at question 37 last time. So now we're heading into chapter 4 and see where we end up with that one. Okay. Okay. So chapter 4, we need to do some graphing in here. So if we're going to graph and come up with what our statements are going to be, we need to, it says, find 2 points on the line, then use the answer to graph the line. So we kind of got away from doing points and we got into slope-intercept form. Remember that? So we can kind of do this thing in slope-intercept form because I have a point right here. That's my y-intercept. So that's 1 point of 0, 4. Okay. So I have 0, 4 for that one. So I need to find still one more point. So if I plot 0, 4, and if I use my slope, -1/2 means I go down 1 and over 2, I found another point. That second point is at 2, 3, and so I can plot it in there and end up getting my 2 points that I need to graph that line. Okay? Does that make sense? Okay. So then what I would do, let me get my ruler. Might as well make it look neat instead of drawing a weird, crazy line in there. I can draw my line. And I get my value in there, okay? So that's what happens with that part. And then the next one says determine the slope and the y-intercept of this equation, and because it's already in slope-intercept form, I can just pick those pieces out. So the first one, I can pick out my slope, which is 3 over 5, and then pick out my intercept, which is 0, comma, negative 2. Okay? So that's what that one would be. Yes? What do you think? Okay, good. All righty. And then it says on this side, it says graph that equation, graph the y-intercept. I got to write over here what my 2 were. 3/5 was my slope. My intercept was 0, comma, negative 2. So now I graph that. So 0, negative 2. Then the next piece, it says in step 1, you found the slope. Step 2, you graph the y-intercept, use the slope to find the second point other than the y-intercept and graph it. So your point will pop up. Slope says up 3 and over 5. And so I get my graph of my line in there. And I think it pops in a line, if I remember right. And so that's my line. Okay? We good with that one, you think? Okay. And 40's just like it, but you got to solve. So how do I solve this? Okay, and get my slope and intercept out of it. So 3x minus 3y equals 6. How am I going to get my slope and intercept? So, yep, get y all alone. So I got a minus 3x from both sides. Then I need to divide by negative 3. And I find out that y is equal to x. 6 divided by negative 3 is a negative 2. And so I've got it in slope-intercept form. Okay? And then you can find the rest from there, I think. Correct? Because they asked for slope and asked for the intercept. So I guess we can just put them in there. 1 over 1 or just plain 1. And the intercept's a negative 2. Okay? All right. And then it asks you to do the same stuff on the opposite side. Okay. And you can finish it. Now again, on Monday, you need to have this packet finished. So it's due Monday. So make sure you remember that it's due Monday. And you get it done. So then, 41. So what are we going to do with 41? It says the slope determined by the pairs. What's my slope formula? So let's just put all the formulas in here. So one that we had was y equals mx plus b. And that is slope-intercept form, and we just did that one. Then we had the slope formula. So what's the slope formula? How do I find it? Been a while. Mm-hmm. That's the opposite way. y2 minus y1 is on top, and x2 over x1 is underneath. So you kind of invert those and get them going the opposite way. This means one point. This means another point. Okay. So when I would set these up, I would start over here and work my way back across. It's the easiest way. 2 over 4. 2 is my y. 4 is my x. Minus, minus, because that's my formula. 3 over a negative 5. And then you can use that to find your slope. So 2 minus 3 is a negative 1. 4 minus a negative 5 is really 4 plus 5, 9. So my slope is 1/9. Okay? So that was 41. And then we had one other formula. I might as well get all the formulas in here. We had the point slope formula. And the point slope formula let me find the equation of a line. So this finds the equation. So what is that formula? So we got them all together. Kind of uses your slope formula in there, but it's y minus y1 is equal to m. What's m? Slope? X minus x1. And so that we use to find equations of lines. So that's our three formulas we had from chapter 4. So you need to know those because they all pop up in your exam. Okay, so chapter 4 has 4 questions out of it as well to go on your exam. So there's 4 pieces there. Okay, and we got problems that'll show us how to use that one. I just wanted them all in one spot to look. Oh, this one? Yep. So you still got to set it up. So 1/4 over negative 1/4 minus 2 over negative 5/2. So I got to do the top. So I got to turn this 2 into quarters. So 1/4 minus 2 in quarters. 2 times 4 is 8. So I have 8 quarters. So 1/4 from 8 quarters is negative 7 quarters. You okay with that part? 2's over 1. 1 goes into 4, 4. 4 times 2 is 8. 1/4 minus 8 quarters is 7 quarters. Bottom, we need common denominator here too, 1/4. But I'm going to change my sign, so it's really going to be plus. 2 goes into 4 twice. 2 times 5 is 10. So I get 9 quarters. So then you have these two, which is a complex fraction now. This means to divide. So negative 7/4 divided by 9/4 is really negative 7/4 times 4/9. And my 4's will cancel. So my slope becomes negative 7 over 9. That one's got a lot of stuff in it. It's got quite a few pieces in there to work with that one. So you want to make sure you get your parts in there. Good thing you asked on that one. So we got that one done too. Okay, what do you think? So expect a slope formula to find the slope of 2 points on your exam. Okay, so let's flip it over and see what the next page has got in it. Next page is using the slope point slope formula because I've got to find the equation of this line. So how can I find the equation of that line? Slope's negative 2 and I got an ordered pair, so basically all I need to do is plug it into my formula. So y minus 3 equals negative 2 times x minus a negative 1. And solve it. So y minus 3 is equal to a negative 2x. This changes to a positive 1, but I multiply by negative 2, I get a negative 2. Add 3. So negative 2x plus 1 becomes my equation with that one. All right or not all right? And then 44, you have to find your slope first and then pick a point and use the same formula to solve that part. So it's kind of putting the last 2 questions we just got done doing with finding a slope along with the point slope formula. So I'm going to leave that one for you too. Or you need that one done. What do you think? No? Okay. And then 45 and 46 are inequalities where we shaded a side. Remember how we shaded pieces of our graph so that we'd have an idea of what it would look like. So if we look at 46, we'll do that one because we got a lot of manipulating on that one to do. I've got x is greater than or equal to a negative 5x, or 5y minus 5. I need to get y all alone, so I'm going to add 5 to both sides. Okay. Then I got to get y all alone, so how do I get y all alone? Divide by negative 5. So these guys cancel. And so what am I left with? I'm left with negative 1/5 x. 5 over negative 5 is really going to be a negative 1. But because I divided by negative, I need to flip my inequality. And I get that. Now that doesn't look right because y is on the right and not on the left. So we reverse it. Y, openings towards y. And now it looks right. So then I'd graph it. And it's going to ask you whether you have a solid line, a dashed line. It's going to be solid because of the equals. So I'm going to go to a negative 1. Follow my slope. Slope says down 1 and over 5. Graph my line. Solid line. Because it's included because there's an equals. And then I got to decide what side shaded. So do I shade below the line or above the line? Use test point, 0, 0. 0 is greater than or equal to a negative 1/5 times 0 minus 1. So is 0 greater than a negative 1? Yes or no? Yes. So I'm going to shade above the line or where 0, 0 is at. So that side gets shaded. Okay? What do you think? Think you can do 45 on your own now? Hopefully, with that one. Okay. And then they give you one more on the back page to graph too, so 47's there. So again, 3 questions. So what can you expect on your exam? One of those, okay? Because there's about 2 or 3 questions for every question that is asked on your exam that's in here. So your exam's here. It's just you got to figure out which pieces you're going to use out of it, okay? But again, you're going to have one of these guys, so know that. Chapter 5 and our test and our exam has 2 pieces to it. It had the properties of exponents, so that's all those exponential laws that we had, and also polynomials. So there's 10 questions out of chapter 5 because chapter 5 had a bunch of skills and stuff that we needed to make sure we learned for that. So that's where those 2 fit in. So let's put the laws of exponents. I'm going to put them down here in the bottom of this page. So one that we had is x squared times x to the 3rd power. What did we do if we worked with those? So that's kind of like power property number 1. What did I have to do? X to the 2nd times x to the 3rd. What was my rule? What did I have to do to them? Add the exponents. So I get x to the 5th. So we add our exponents there. Another rule is x to the 5th over x to the 2nd. What happened with that one? Subtract. 5 take away 2 is x to the 3rd. Now with this one you had to be a little careful because if it were x to the 2nd over x to the 5th, I would subtract in the denominator because it's bigger and get 1 over x to the 3rd. Or 2 minus 5 is a negative, so I have a negative exponent, so I have to be careful with that. Another rule was x to the 2nd, y to the 3rd raised to the 2nd power. What do I do with that one? Multiply. Yep, everything gets a 2. So I have x to the 4th, y to the 6th with that one. Okay, so they multiply, and so that's where they go. And if you had x to the 2nd over y to the 3rd raised to the 4th, what happens to that one? Same type of thing as number 3, but it's just you got denominators, so I multiply everybody by 4. So I have x to the 8th over y to the 12th. Okay, so that's a multiplication there too. And what if you had x to the 0 power? What's that equal to? 1. Yep. Anything to a 0 power is 1, so just keep that in mind. And then x to the negative third. What happens to it? Yep. Because it moves and goes to the denominator. And then if it's in the denominator, where does it go? Up top then. So it becomes 3x to the 4th. But that's all my rules. I don't think there's any other ones that we missed in there. And then what they do is the problems up above, problems 48 through 51 are all applying those rules. And letting you know what takes place with them. So the first one just moves. Number 45 just moves to the denominator. Number 49 also moves to the denominator and becomes 1 over 25 when you square the 5. And what do we do with 50? Yep. So I have 2 times. Everybody gets a 3, including the 6. So I have a negative 6 to the 3rd power. Yep. Just gotta see where I need to have it. And then 3 times 2 is 6 also. So my final answer with this one is 2 times 6 times 6 times 6. It's 216, I think. Maybe not. Is it? 216? Negative 216. B to the 6th. But I got to finish it 2 times that. And get a negative 432 b to the 6th. Okay. And then the same thing happens with 51. You distribute it there too. Okay. I'll leave that one for you guys. And then flipping the page, we got 2 more with exponents, and those 2 I'm going to leave for you too. So you should be able to figure those out, I think, hopefully. And then it gets into the polynomials from chapter 5, and I think you guys all like those. They're pretty easy, so I think you're good there. Yeah, which one? We'll do 55. We'll do a subtraction, because that I got to change signs on. First part stays as it is. Second part, I need to multiply every piece by that negative 1. So negative 1 times a negative 5 is a plus 5x squared. Negative 1 times positive 4 is a negative 4x. Negative 1 times a positive 9 is a negative 9. And then it's combining like terms. So 3x and a negative 4x is a negative x. Negative 8 and a negative 9 is a negative 17. And the 5x squared just comes along. But you want to write these in descending order. So 5x squared minus x minus 17 would be what you'd write for your answer. Okay. Yes? Okay. Does that help you out with what you need to do? Okay. And then you get a multiplication, which is just plain distribution. So if you go to the next page, we get a whole bunch more. We get into foiling. I think you're good there. We've been foiling forever. I think we foiled in chapter 6 also, because we had to check stuff and see if we did it right. Division. Got a division problem in here. What about those? One of those? Okay. Let's do 62. 62 has m squared or m cubed plus 2m minus 3 over m minus 1. I can't divide this the way it is because I need a space holder for my m squared. don't forget to put those in there because they do pop up. So then what do I got to do to m? Make it look like an m cubed. Coming back as memories, remembering how to do those. I need an m squared. M squared times m is m cubed. M squared times a negative 1 is a negative m squared. Change my signs. Now what do I got to do to m to make it look like an m squared? Plus m. M times m is m squared. M times a negative 1 is a negative m. Change my signs. 2 and a negative and a positive 1 is 3m. M squareds are gone. Then what do I got to do to m to make it look like a 3m? Plus 3. 3 times m is 3m, and 3 times a negative 1 is a negative 3. Change my signs, and I get 0. So this is my answer. Okay. The second one, you just divide because there's no, you don't have to worry about replacing stuff and putting anything in the middle. Okay. And that's chapter 5. So the 5 questions, if you look at the polynomial piece, you got adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing, so you know that those are going to show up in there. Okay, so you're going to, that's 4 of them. And then you got a 5th one, and the 5th one could be, who knows, combining like things or doing something with it, or doing an extra subtraction problem or something on that order. So that's your polynomial piece. And then finally, chapter 6 is questions 36 through 40, and that just happens to be going through and factoring. And so we're back to where we left off about 2 weeks ago. We were into factoring. So what do you think? You guys factor those? What's here? Okay. Some of them are just finding the greatest common factor, such as this one. So you're just pulling out that monomial that's part of it. And then down here is factoring your trinomial. So I think you're okay. And then finally, I think we're down to the last page that's in here. Might be another one after that. Oh, there is one more. Then what you gotta do is just go through and factor and factor and factor and factor and do more factoring. So what happens with 72, I think we have to take a peek at 72. 72 was at the tail end of that chapter, and we had to do quadratics and come up with what their values would be. So what happens to this quadratic equation? So I need to add 5, so I get x squared plus 7x plus 6 equals 0. Factor it. What does it factor to? Factors of 6 that add to 7. 1 and 6, plus 1 plus 6. And then because it's a quadratic, all I need to do is make sure that I solve and set these things equal to 0. And solve them. So move my 1 over. I find x is a negative 1. Move my 6 over. Find x is equal to a negative 6. So that's my 2 solutions. Okay. And we didn't really do 74 because that was in that last section. Let me make sure we pull out some stuff out of here that may not be part of these. We didn't do 75 and 76 and 77 and 78 and 79 because we didn't do the quadratics with those. But we did do proportions. Yep. I gotta pull them out of there. They're still in this test bank, but they need to come out. So you may run across a couple in your practice final that are like that too, that are in there but don't belong in there. So how do I solve this proportion? So I solve it by taking 3 times x is 3x, 9 times 27, and I get 243. Divide by 3, and I find out that x is equal to 81. Okay. So I think it was, no, maybe we didn't, maybe we really didn't hit proportions that much.
I remember doing this, but not in chapter 5.
No, it's not chapter 5 or chapter 6. No, it's kind of somewhere in there. It's out of sequence. Maybe we didn't do them at all. I don't think we did. I think they were, I don't know if they're still in your final. I'm trying to remember whether they're still in there. But you still just do your multiplications in there. So this one would be 204 times x is equal to 34 times 222. I know they're in basic math for sure. So 34 times 222 equals 7,548. Divide that by 204. And we find x is equal to 37. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I don't think we did, I can't remember. I don't think we did do those. I don't think they're in there at any point. Okay. All right. Like a couple semesters ago, we did 6.7, and now we don't do 6.7. We stop at, or 6.8, I guess it was, and we just stop at that point. But yeah, those are in there. Okay. What do you think? Handle it? Okay. So what is your stuff you got to do for Monday to get ready for your final? In your, in Hawks, when you go into Hawks, you're going to see, if you go to your assignment pieces that normally show up and shows you what you got to do for the week, there are 2 pieces in there that you cannot, if you click on them, you get nothing, and that's where I put your grades for these, okay? So when you go into Hawks, you want to go to your test area in Hawks, and that's where you'll find 1 practice final that's in there. That's worth 10 extra credit points. So if you do it on Hawks, it's worth 10 extra credit points. It goes along with this. So your numbers are the same. So let's say you are having problems with chapter 4, the graphing piece of it, and you want to do more questions on chapter 4. If you look in here, and we find out that chapter 4, oh, where are you, chapter 4? Chapter 4 starts at question 38. So if you go into that practice test and you start at question 38, you can work through 38 through, where does it end at? It ends at problem 47. So if you start in 38 and go through 47, you've worked out that chapter. Okay, and you've practiced it. Then submit it. If you only want to work on chapter 4, submit it, and it will grade just that piece for you. Okay, and if you get one wrong, you can click on below. It'll have a tutor button, and you can click on tutor, and it'll walk you through it within that. I can't set up in Hawks a regular homework assignment with a practice final because of the way they're set up. They don't let you set up a separate assignment piece to it. I think next semester they do. It seems like they just sent through something that said we can do that now. But right now we couldn't do that before. And so that's the only way to do that is with a practice test. So that's worth 10 points extra credit. This is worth 10 points assigned. Okay, so I want to make sure you at least do one of these. Okay, so that was kind of the one that ended up being the assigning. Yeah.
So if you're struggling with one chapter, will it just give you like 2 out of 10.4?
No, I will have to go back in and do that. So if you pop back in and do another chapter in your practice one, and you pop it up and you've got it in there twice that you worked on, because you can get into as many times as you want. So you could start it all over again and now take a look at chapter 5 and do just chapter 5's questions. Okay, so if I see that you've been in there 3 times, that's telling me you must have been working on something. Okay, and so you get your 10 points. All right, I'm not looking for the thing to be completely finished per se that you're going to do the whole thing all the way through. Of course, some of you might. You might just sit down and just start working through it and go through and do the whole thing, which is great. And so then you get your 5 points. But I don't want to see where you open it and do absolutely nothing. You won't get 5 points for doing nothing. Okay? So.
Doing this 5 points, but doing it online.
Do you miss what was that?
They're both 10. Oh, okay.
They're both 10.
That's great. That's
This is 10, and your online one's 10, or your one that's in Hawks is 10.
But it has the same name.
It's got the same name as that. It's
Okay.
practice final.
Okay.
Yep. The numbers will be different. The order doesn't change. The problems don't change. It's just that it's in Hawks instead of on paper. Because this is printed right off of it. Okay? But the numbers will change. Because each time you enter it, you'll get different numbers.
And that's going to go towards, I'm looking at right now, it's final exam practice.
Yes, that's where I'll put the 10 points in for you. If you click on that, you'll get nothing right now because I haven't entered anything. But on Monday, while you guys are doing your exam, I'll go in and put your points in because I'll know whether you did it or not. Because I'll go underneath web tests and click on practice tests, and I'll pull up all your names and how many times you've been in it. Or if you haven't been in it. So it gives, if you haven't been in it, you just don't get your points. So it doesn't count against you. But if you have never, ever did any practice tests in this class, that's your last chance to get extra credit. Okay? I think most of you in here that are here have did that and stuff. But if you haven't, make sure you do that. All right. Anything last minute that we need to go over? We've made it through all of this stuff. So it's kind of up to you now. It's all in your hands. Study over the weekend and make sure you get that together.